The great chamber of Harmony Prime was full of light and noise. 12 species sat in their places around the curved table. Their voices mixed together like water in a river. Some spoke through translators. Others used their own sounds that clicked and hummed. But everyone understood everyone else. That was the magic of the Galactic Council. Dr. Kim Yuna sat straight in her chair. She wore the black and silver uniform of the human diplomatic corps. Her face was calm, but her hands were tight under the table. She had been a diplomat for 15 years. She knew when a room was turning against her. Captain Park Do-yeon stood behind her. He was her chief of security. His job was to watch, to listen, to protect. Right now he was watching the Valnorian delegate. The tall creature had purple skin and 4 arms. 2 of those arms were pointing at the humans. "The humans expand too fast," the Valnorian said. His translator made his voice sound flat, but his real voice underneath was sharp and angry. "They take the rim territories. They build stations. They mine resources. They act like the galaxy belongs to them." Yuna pressed a button on her console. "Respected delegate, the rim territories were unclaimed. We followed all laws. We filed all documents. The council approved our settlements 3 years ago." "The council made a mistake," another voice said. This voice came from the Marathi collective speaker. The Marathi were a hive species. They shared one mind across millions of badas. When they spoke, it felt like 1,000 voices agreeing at once. "Humanity grows too powerful," the Marathi said. "They control too much trade. They make too many things the galaxy needs. This is dangerous. We move to place sanctions on human trade routes." Yuna felt her heart beat faster. Sanctions meant blocked ships. Blocked ships meant colonies without food, stations without medicine, families separated for months. "This is not fair," she said. "We have done nothing wrong. We have been good partners for 127 years. The vote will decide," the Valnorian said. The voting took only moments. Lights appeared on the table. Green for yes, red for no. Yuna watched the lights appear one by one. Green, 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 red, green, green. Red, green, green, red, green, red. 7 green. 5 red. The sanctions passed. Yuna stared at the lights. The Telkari had voted yes. The humans had saved their planet from a plague 60 years ago. The Vorn had voted yes. Human engineers had built their first space elevator. Species that humanity had helped, traded with, trusted, they had all turned their backs. Her console buzzed. A message from Earth Command, encrypted at the highest level. She read it quickly. Then she read it again. Her face did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. Captain Do-yeon saw it. He had worked with her for 8 years. He knew that look. It was the look she got when she made a decision that could not be taken back. Yuna stood up slowly. The chamber went quiet. Humans did not interrupt council proceedings. Humans were polite. Humans always had something to say, some argument to make, some compromise to offer. Yuna reached up and removed the translator device from her ear. She held it in her hand for a moment. Then she placed it on the table, around the chamber. Every human did the same thing. 12 humans. 12 translators placed down in silence. Yuna spoke. But she did not speak in the common tongue. She spoke in Korean, her birth language, words that no translator would carry to alien ears. "We are finished," she bowed once. It was a formal bow, the kind given to strangers, not friends. Then she turned and walked toward the door. Captain Do-yeon followed her. So did every other human in the chamber. Their footsteps were the only sound. No one ran. No one spoke. They simply left. The Valnorian delegate made a sound of confusion. "What is this? Where are they going? They cannot simply leave." "Let them go," the Marathi said. "They are emotional. They will return when they have calmed down. Humans always talk. It is what they do." But the humans did not stop at the door. They walked through the corridors of Harmony Prime. They passed aliens who stared at them. They did not answer questions. They did not make eye contact. They walked to their ships and they boarded them within 1 hour. Every human vessel had departed from Harmony Prime. Counselor Dren of the Morati watched the ships leave through the great window of the station. He was an old creature, even by Morati standards. He had seen many things in his life. He had seen wars end and empires fall, but he had never seen humans like this. Humans argued. Humans debated. Humans wrote long letters and made passionate speeches. Humans never stopped talking. Until now. This is strange, Dren said to his assistant. Contact the human embassy on their homeworld. Ask them what this means. His assistant tried. The communication went through. A human face appeared on the screen, but the human did not speak. He simply looked at the camera for a long moment. Then the screen went dark. Dren tried again. Same result. A face, a look, and then nothing. Perhaps their systems are broken, his assistant suggested. Human systems do not break, Dren said. They build everything to last forever. He looked out the window again. The human ships were already gone, swallowed by the black distance between stars. The chamber behind him was loud again. Delegates were talking, laughing, celebrating their victory over the young species that had grown too fast. Dren did not celebrate. He felt something cold in his chest. It was a feeling he had not experienced in a very long time. Fear. He remembered a human saying he had heard once. Beware the anger of a patient man. He had thought it was strange at the time. How could patience and anger exist together? Now he understood. Humans had been patient for 127 years. They had talked and argued and compromised and smiled through every insult, every dismissal, every unfair vote. And now they had stopped. Dren looked at the celebrating delegates and felt very old and very worried. He wanted to tell them to stop. He wanted to tell them they had made a terrible mistake. But they would not listen to him. They never listened. So he said nothing. He simply watched the stars where the human ships had disappeared, and he waited for whatever would come next. The silence had begun. 3 weeks passed. The galaxy waited for humanity to speak. They did not speak. Lieutenant Bixora sat at her monitoring station on the edge of Velnorian space. Her job was to watch the border between her people and the humans. For 5 years, this had been boring work. Human ships came and went. They followed the rules. They paid their fees. They waved at her cameras. Now there was nothing to watch. The human side of the border was dark. No ships moved. No signals came through. The stations were there. She could see them on her sensors, but they gave nothing away. No lights in windows. No radio chatter. No music or news or advertisements floating through space like there used to be. Try again, her commander said. SOR sent another message. Human Station 14, this is Velnorian Border Control. Please respond. We have commercial vessels waiting to enter your space. She waited. Nothing. Human Station 14, please respond. A light blinked on her console. A response. She felt relief for a moment. Finally, someone was going to explain what was happening. A human face appeared on her screen. It was a young man with tired eyes. He looked at her without expression. Human space is closed to all traffic, he said. Please redirect your vessels. Closed? For how long? Our merchants have contracts. They have goods to deliver. Human space is closed to all traffic, the man repeated. Same words. Same flat voice. Please redirect your vessels. But we need to know. The screen went dark. SOR stared at the empty screen. In 5 years, she had never been cut off like that. Humans love to talk. They would explain everything twice and then ask if you had questions. What do we do? She asked her commander. Tell the merchants to go home, he said. The humans will open their borders again soon. They need trade as much as we do. But days passed and the borders stayed closed. Merchant ships gathered at the edge of human space like fish at a wall. Some tried to enter anyway. They found human stations operational but empty. Doors opened for them. Lights came on. But there were no people anywhere. Just recorded messages that said, humanity is not available for discussion at this time. The messages were polite. They were always polite. But they gave nothing. On Harmony Prime, Counselor Dren pushed for answers. He stood before the council and demanded they send an official delegation to Earth. "This silence is not normal," he said. "We must find out what they are planning." "They are planning nothing," the Velnorian delegate said. "They are having a tantrum. Children do this when they do not get what they want. They will talk when they are hungry." "Humans do not have tantrums," Dren said. "In 127 years, they have never broken contact. Not once, not during the trade wars, not during the plague of Kelos, not even when we rejected their petition to join the Inner Council. They always kept talking." "Then this will be good for them," the Marathi collective said. "Some silence will teach them humility." Dren wanted to argue more, but he saw the faces around him. They were not worried. They were satisfied. They thought they had won. He returned to his quarters and opened his personal files. He began to read everything he could find about humanity. He read their history, their wars, their art, their philosophy. He read for hours, and the cold feeling in his chest grew stronger. Humans were patient. They planned for long periods of time. They built things to last for generations. And when they stopped talking, it meant they had stopped hoping for a peaceful solution. Meanwhile, in human space, the work continued. Admiral Choi Taeyang stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable. He was 55 years old, with gray hair and steady hands. He had commanded human fleets for 30 years. He had never fired a shot in anger. He hoped he never would. "Status report," he said. His officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Yoon Hana, read from her screen. "All citizens recalled from alien worlds. 97% compliance. The remaining 3% are in transit. All trade ships returned to human ports. All military vessels repositioned to defensive coordinates. Communication blackout holding at 100%. "Good," Taeyang said. "And the production orders?" "Factories running at full capacity. The reserves will be full within 2 months." Taeyang nodded. He looked out the great window of his bridge at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, alien species were wondering what humanity was doing. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them feel what it was like to be ignored. On Earth, Minister Han Ji-woo coordinated the Great Withdrawal. She was 50 years old, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She had planned for this day for 20 years. Everyone had hoped it would never come. But everyone had known it might. Dr. Kim Yuna sat across from her in the ministry building. Outside the window, the city of Seoul sparkled in the night. Life continued. People went to work. Children went to school. The only difference was that now, no one talked to the rest of the galaxy. "The Marathi homeworld is requesting emergency medical supplies," Jiwoo said. "Their hospitals are running out of the drugs we manufacture." "What is our response?" Yuna asked. "No response. That is the whole point." Yuna was quiet for a moment. "People will suffer." "Yes, and that is terrible. But we did not create this situation. We tried for 127 years to be good partners. We shared our technology. We opened our borders. We gave them everything they asked for, and they repaid us with sanctions and insults." "I know," Yuna said. "I know all of this. But knowing it does not make it easier." "It is not supposed to be easy," Jiwoo said. "If it were easy, we would have done it long ago." Across the galaxy, the consequences began to show. The Marathi homeworld reported shortages of critical medicines. The Telkari navigation systems began to fail without human software updates. The Vorn space elevator developed cracks that their engineers could not repair. Species that had voted for sanctions began to ask questions. Why had no one thought about this? Why had no one realized how much they depended on humans? But the species that had voted against sanctions asked harder questions. Why had they allowed this to happen? Why had they not stood with humanity when it mattered? Counselor Dren finally managed to reach a human official through back channels. It was a minor clerk, someone with no real power. But she agreed to deliver a message. "Tell me," Dren said, "what must we do to make this right?" The clerk looked at him through the screen. Her face was calm and cold. "You taught us that our words meant nothing," she said. "We learned. Now you will learn what our silence means." The screen went dark. Dren sat alone in his quarters for a long time. He understood now. This was not a tantrum. This was not emotional. This was a lesson, carefully planned and perfectly executed, and it was only beginning. 2 months of silence. The galaxy was beginning to break. Counselor Dren stood before the council again. This time his voice was not calm. This time he was angry. "We must act," he said. "We cannot wait any longer." The chamber was quieter than before. The celebration was over. The smiles were gone. Now there was only worry. "What do you want us to do?" the Velnorian delegate asked. "The humans will not speak to us." "Then we must show them we were wrong," Dren said. "We must remove the sanctions." "We must apologize? Apologize?" The Moradi collective made a sound of disgust. The Moradi do not apologize to younger species. It would show weakness. Weakness? Dren turned to face the Moradi speaker directly. "Let me tell you about weakness. The Moradi homeworld has 3 weeks of medicine left. Your hive mothers are already sick. Your children are dying. Is your pride worth their lives?" The chamber went silent. No one spoke to the Moradi that way. No one ever had. "You go too far," the Moradi said. "I do not go far enough," Dren replied. "Let me tell all of you what I have learned. Humanity supplies 40% of all rare medical compounds in the galaxy, 60% of all advanced computing parts. They maintain the only reliable navigation charts through the void corridors. Without those charts, travel between the outer systems becomes 10 times more dangerous." He looked around the room. "We thought we were punishing them. We were punishing ourselves." The Telkari delegate raised a thin arm. "My people voted against the sanctions. We tried to warn you, but you did not listen." "You are right," Dren said. "We did not listen. And now we must face the consequences." "What consequences?" the Velnorian demanded. "So we lose some trade for a few months. We will survive. We are strong species. We do not need humans." Dren shook his head slowly. "You truly do not understand. Humans did not become important by accident. They planned this. For 80 years, they have been building themselves into every part of our lives. They made themselves necessary. And they did it so carefully that we never noticed. Why would they do such a thing? Because they knew this day would come. They knew that eventually we would betray them. And they wanted to be ready." On Earth, Dr. Kim Yuna sat in a garden in Seoul. The autumn leaves were falling. She watched them drift down like small pieces of gold. Minister Han Jae-woo sat beside her. They had been meeting like this for weeks, talking about the future. Today Ji-woo brought news. "The Telkari have formally requested to leave the council," Ji-woo said. "They say they cannot support an organization that treats its members so unfairly." "The Telkari have always been good friends," Yuna said. "Yes, and we will remember that." Ji-woo paused. "The Velnorian public is protesting against their government. They want the sanctions removed. Do you think it will help?" "The Velnorian government is proud. They will resist for as long as they can. But they cannot resist forever." Yuna picked up a fallen leaf and turned it over in her hands. "I keep thinking about the people who are suffering. The sick on the Moradi homeworld. The stranded travelers. The children who do not understand why their medicine stopped coming. Do you want to stop?" Ji-woo asked quietly. "We can end this at any time. We can open the borders and resume trade. No one would blame you." Yuna was silent for a long moment. "No, I do not want to stop. I'm just sad. I always hoped it would not come to this." "We all hope that," Ji-woo said. "But hope is not a strategy. The council ignored us for decades. They dismissed our concerns. They laughed at our proposals. They treated us like children who should be grateful for the chance to sit at their table. I remember. The sanctions were not the first betrayal. They were the last. The final proof that words would never be enough. Jiwoo looked at the sky. We are not cruel people, Yuna. We do not enjoy this. But we had to show them that we matter. We had to show them that our absence has weight. And then what? They learn their lesson and we all become friends again? No, then we build something new. Something better. Something where all species are equal, not just the old ones. In the depths of space, Admiral Choi Taeyang received a report from his scouts. A Marathi fleet was gathering near the border. 200 ships, all armed, all pointed at human space. Lieutenant Yoon Hana brought him the data. They say it is defensive positioning. They say they are protecting their territory. Taeyang studied the formation. That is not a defensive formation. That is a threat. What do we do? Nothing yet. We watch. We wait. But move our ships into response positions, quietly. Yes, Admiral. Taeyang sat in his chair and thought about war. He had studied it all his life. He knew its costs. He knew its waste. He knew that no one ever truly won a war, some just lost less than others, but he also knew that sometimes you had to be willing to fight. Not because you wanted to, but because the alternative was worse. Living on your knees. Accepting abuse. Teaching your children that they did not deserve respect. He would not fire first. Humans never fired first. But if the Marathi crossed that border with weapons hot, he would show them exactly what humanity could do. Back on Harmony Prime, the council met in emergency session. The Talcari had left. 3 other species were threatening to follow. The Velnorian government was facing riots at home. The Marathi were deploying their fleet. Everything was falling apart. We must reach out to the humans, someone said. We must find a way to end this. How? Another delegate asked. They will not speak to us. Every message we send disappears into silence. Counselor Dren stood up. He was tired. He had barely slept in weeks. But he had one more thing to say. I will go to them myself, he said. I will go to Earth, I will stand before their government, and I will beg if I have to. You would shame us all, the Marathi said. We have already shamed ourselves, Dren replied. I am just trying to fix it. He left the chamber and began preparing for his journey. He did not know if the humans would see him. He did not know if they would listen. But he had to try. As his ship departed from Harmony Prime, he looked back at the great station. It had been built to bring species together, to create peace, to build a future where all could prosper. Now it felt like a monument to failure. He turned away and faced the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting. They had made their point. The galaxy understood its mistake. The question was whether understanding would be enough. 4 months of silence. The Marathi fleet moved toward human space. High Commander Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was old for a Marathi warrior. His shell was cracked in many places from old battles. He had fought in 3 wars. He had never lost. This will be simple, he told his officers. The humans are weak. They talk instead of fight. They make things instead of take things. When they see our fleet, they will open their borders and give us what we want. His officers agreed? Of course they agreed. They always agreed. The fleet crossed into the neutral zone between Marathi space and human space. 200 ships in perfect formation. Enough firepower to crack a planet. Send a message to the human border station, Voss ordered. Tell them to open their territory for inspection. Tell them we will enter whether they agree or not. The message was sent. They waited. A response came. A single line of text on their screens. We see you. We are not impressed. Voss made a sound of anger. Arrogant creatures, they will regret those words. He ordered his fleet forward. They crossed the line into human space. Sensors clear, no contact. The humans were running away, just as he expected. Then his tactical officer made a sound of shock. Commander, we have contacts, many contacts. Where? I see nothing ahead. Not ahead, Commander. Behind us and beside us. And above us and below us, Voss looked at his display. Red dots were appearing everywhere, human ships. They had not been there a moment ago. Now they were all around his fleet like a net. How many? He asked, counting. 400 ships, Commander. No, 500. They are still appearing. That is impossible. We scanned this area. There was nothing here. They must have been hiding, using some technology to mask their presence. Voss stared at the display. His 200 ships were now surrounded by 500 human vessels. Every angle of attack was covered. Every escape route was blocked. Admiral Choi Tae-yeon watched the Marathi fleet from his bridge. His face showed nothing. Beside him, Lieutenant Yoon Hana was monitoring communications. "They are trying to contact their homeworld," she said. "They cannot get through. We are jamming them." "Good," Tae-yang said. "Open a channel to their flagship." The screen flickered. High Commander Voss appeared. His 4 eyes were wide with something Tae-yang recognized. Fear. "This is Admiral Choi Tae-yang of the Human Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission. You have brought weapons into our territory. This is an act of war." Voss tried to keep his voice steady. "We are here for inspection only. We mean no harm." "You brought 200 warships for an inspection?" We must protect ourselves." "From what?" "We have not attacked you. We have not threatened you. We simply stopped talking to you." Tae-yang leaned forward slightly. "You could not stand the silence. You could not stand being ignored. So you came here to make us pay attention to you." Voss said nothing. "I will give you one chance," Tae-yang said. "Turn your ships around. Leave our space. Do it now, and we will consider this a misunderstanding." For a long moment, Voss was silent. He looked at his displays. He counted the human ships around him. He saw their weapons locked onto his vessels. He knew what would happen if he pushed further, but he was Marathi. He had never retreated. He would not start now. "You are bluffing," he said. "Humans do not fight. You negotiate. You talk. You compromise. You do not have the stomach for war." He cut the communication and turned to his officers. "All ships, advance at half speed. Weapons ready. They will back down." They always back down. The Marathi fleet moved forward. Slowly, carefully, but forward. On the indomitable, Lieutenant Hana looked at Admiral Tae-yang. "Orders, sir." Tae-yang was quiet for a moment. He thought about his children on Earth. He thought about every human who had trusted him to keep them safe. He thought about all the years of patience and hope and disappointment. "Target their flagship," he said. "Weapon systems only, fire." The human ships moved like they were one creature. 4 ships focused on the Marathi flagship. Their weapons fired at exactly the same moment. The beams were precise, so precise that they seemed impossible. On Voss's ship, alarm screamed. His tactical officer shouted readings, "Weapons offline!" All weapons offline. They hit every gun, every launcher, every system. "Damage to hull?" "None, Commander." "They disabled us without breaking our shell." "Time to target?" "For seconds, Commander." They did it in 4 seconds. Voss stared at his dead weapons displays. 4 seconds. His flagship had the strongest shields in the Marathi fleet. The humans had cut through them like they were nothing, and they had not killed anyone. Not one crew member harmed? They had simply turned off his ability to fight. "Commander," his tactical officer said quietly, "the rest of the human fleet has weapons locked on every one of our ships. If they fire," he did not need to finish, Voss understood. "If the humans wanted to, they could destroy his entire fleet in moments." 200 ships, gone. And there was nothing he could do about it. Admiral Tae-yang's face appeared on the screen again. His expression had not changed. "I am not bluffing," he said. "I never bluff. Now leave." Voss looked at his officers. He looked at his dead weapons. He looked at the human ships surrounding him. He had thought humans were weak because they did not fight. He understood now. Humans were not weak. They were controlled. They chose not to fight because they did not need to. They were so far beyond. The Marathi that fighting would be like a giant stepping on insects. "All ships," Voss said slowly, "reverse course. Return to Marathi space. Commander, do it now." The Marathi fleet turned and left. Not one shot was fired at them. The human ships simply watched them go, silent and still, when the last Marathi Vessel crossed out of human space. Taeyang finally allowed himself to breathe. "Stand down," he told his crew. "Good work." Word of the encounter spread across the galaxy within hours. The Marathi had sent a war fleet into human space. The humans had surrounded them, disabled their flagship in 4 seconds, and let them go. The council called an emergency session. This time there was no argument. They voted to send an official apology delegation to Earth. The message went out. The Galactic Council requests an audience with the United Human Government. We wish to discuss peace and reconciliation. They waited for a response. Hours passed. Then days. Finally, a message came back from human space. One word, broadcast on all frequencies so everyone could hear it. No, just that. No explanation, no conditions. No compromise. The galaxy had never heard that word before. Not from humans. Humans always said yes. They always found a way. Not anymore. Captain Park Do-yeon received the news on his ship. He was part of Admiral Taeyang's fleet now, assigned to border patrol. He read the message and felt something he could not quite name. Pride, maybe, or relief. Or sadness. He thought about Dr. Kim Yuna. He wondered if she had seen the message. He wondered if she was proud too, or if she felt the same complicated mix of emotions that he did. They had won something. But what exactly had they won, and what came next? He did not know. None of them knew. They were in unknown space now, flying without maps. All he could do was wait and see where the silence would take them. 6 months of silence. The galaxy had changed. The Marathi Collective recalled High Commander Voss from his position. He was not punished. He had only done what everyone expected him to do. But he was finished. His name became a lesson. Do not push humans. The Velnorian government fell. The protests had grown too large, too angry. A new government took power. One that promised to repair relations with humanity whatever the cost. The council itself was breaking apart. 4 species had left. Others were threatening to follow. The great alliance that had held the galaxy together for thousands of years was dying, and still, humanity was silent. Counselor Dren's ship arrived at the edge of human space on a cold morning in the 6th month. He had traveled alone, without guards or ceremony. Just an old diplomat in a small ship, hoping for a miracle. "Human border control," he said into his communicator. "This is Counselor Dren of the Marathi Collective. I request permission to enter human space and speak with your government." He waited. The silence was heavy. Then a voice came back. A human voice, female, calm. "Counselor Dren, your request is acknowledged. You may proceed to Station 7 and escort will guide you." Dren felt something lift in his chest. They were going to see him. After 6 months, they were going to talk. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you very much." He followed the escort ships to Station 7, a small diplomatic post on the edge of human territory. When he docked, he found a single human waiting for him. Captain Park Do-yeon. "Counselor," Do-yeon said with a small bow, "I will take you to Earth. You are the security officer. I remember you from the council chamber." "Yes, and Dr. Kim? Will I see her?" "She is waiting for you." The journey to Earth took 2 days. Do-yeon did not speak much, and Dren did not push. He understood that words had lost their value. Only actions would matter now. Earth was beautiful. Dren had read about it, seen pictures of it, but nothing prepared him for the reality. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. It looked like a painting. "How do you leave this place?" he asked Do-yeon as they descended through the atmosphere. "How do you go out into the cold darkness when you have this to come home to?" Do-yeon thought about the question. "Because the darkness is full of people who need help, and we cannot help them if we stay home." They landed in Seoul. Dren was taken to a building in the center of the city, not a palace, not a monument, just an office building like any other. He was led to a room with a table and chairs. Simple furniture. No decorations. Dr. Kim Yuna sat on one side of the table. Minister Han Ji-woo sat beside her. Captain Do-yeon took his position by the door. Dren sat across from them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Yuna said, "Thank you for coming, Counselor. Thank you for seeing me. I was not sure you would." "We almost did not," Ji-woo said. There were many who thought we should let the silence continue forever. Why did you change your mind? Yuna answered. Because silence was never the goal. It was only the tool. The goal was always to build something better. Dren nodded slowly. Then tell me what you want. Tell me what humanity needs to return to the galaxy. Jiwoo slid a document across the table. These are our terms. Read them carefully. Dren read. His eyes moved down the page, and with each line, his hearts beat faster, equal voting weight based on contribution, not age of species. Binding arbitration for all disputes. Immediate removal of all sanctions. Full reparations for the economic damage caused by the sanctions. Open borders and free trade with new protections for all parties. It was not a request. It was a redesign of the entire galactic order. This is significant, Dren said. The Council will resist many of these points. The older species will see it as an attack on their status. The older species can accept these terms, or they can continue without us, Jiwoo said. We are not negotiating. We are informing you of the conditions under which we will return. And if the Council refuses, then we will build our own alliances. The Telkari have already expressed interest. So have the Vorn, the species that respected us before this crisis, will respect us after. The ones that did not, she shrugged. We will not miss them. Dren put down the document. He looked at Yuna. You are asking us to change everything. Thousands of years of tradition. Yes, it will take time. It will be difficult. There will be resistance. We know. Some species may leave the Council entirely. That is their choice. Dren was quiet for a long moment. He thought about all the meetings he had sat through over the years. All the times humans had proposed reasonable changes and been voted down. All the times they had been told to wait, to be patient, to trust the system. They had waited. They had been patient. They had trusted, and they had been betrayed. I will take your terms to the Council, he said finally. I will argue for them with everything I have. But I must ask you something first. Ask, Yuna said. Do you believe we can truly change? Do you believe the galaxy can become what you want it to be? Yuna considered the question carefully. I believe people can learn. I believe they can grow. But I also believe they only learn when there are consequences for their actions. For too long, the Council faced no consequences. They could do whatever they wanted, and nothing bad happened to them. And now, something bad has happened. Yes, now they understand that actions have weight. Decisions have costs. Words without follow-through are empty. Dren nodded. Then I will make sure they understand the choice in front of them. Change or lose humanity forever. He stood up. Yuna and Jiwoo stood as well. One more thing, Dren said. When this is over, if it ends well, I hope we can be more than allies. I hope we can be friends. Yuna smiled. It was the first smile Dren had seen from a human in 6 months. We would like that very much, she said. Do-Yun escorted Dren back to his ship. As they walked, Dren asked one final question. Captain, do you think the Council will accept the terms? Do-Yun thought about it. I think they will. Not because they want to, but because they have no choice. They have felt what it is like to be without us. They will not want to feel it again. And if they do accept, what then? Will humanity forgive what was done? Do-Yun stopped walking. He looked at Dren with steady eyes. We will not forget, he said. But we will move forward. That is what we do. We do not hold on to anger. We learn from it. We use it to build something better. Dren boarded his ship and departed. He watched Earth grow smaller in his window until it was just a blue dot among the stars. 2 weeks later, the Council voted. The terms were accepted. All of them. Even the oldest species agreed. Though their voices were bitter and their pride was wounded, humanity returned to the galactic stage. But everything was different now. They were no longer the young species asking permission. They were equals, partners, leaders. 1 year later, Dr. Kim Yuna stood in the new council chamber, not on Harmony Prime, but on a station built by human and Telkari engineers together. She looked around at the delegates from a dozen species. They looked back at her with respect. Captain Park Do-yun stood beside her, as he always did. "Do you think they truly learned?" he asked quietly. "Or will they forget again when times are easy?" Yuna watched the delegates talking, arguing, laughing, building something new together. "They learned that we were willing to let them face the consequences of their choices," she said. "That is not cruelty. That is respect. We finally treated them like adults. And if they act like children again?" Yuna smiled. "Then we will teach them again. But I hope we will not have to. I hope this time it will stick." She stepped forward to begin the session. The chamber fell quiet. Every eye turned to her. For 6 months, humanity had said nothing. Now, when they spoke, the galaxy listened. And that made all the difference.